Alright, so hi, welcome to class. Glad you're all here. How was the weekend? It feels like it was a long time ago, but glad you're here. Everybody is solid on today. There's a lab exam. It'll be great. It's timed at an hour. You can take it anytime up until by 11:55 it needs to be submitted. PM, not AM. Right? And because I feel deeply compelled to gap. Open book, open notes, not open study buddy. Can't ask other people, right? But yeah, I have every expectation you guys will do just fine. There we go. Did somebody have an exciting presentation for us today? Nope, okay. I really should check this list and actually email you ahead of time. Be like, hey, I think it's your turn. Okay. Today we're at the appendicular skeleton. So what our little skeleton buddy, what parts are we looking at today? Limbs. Yeah, we're looking at the limbs. Pelvis, anything else? And then this part up here that attaches the limbs on. Okay. Basically everything that's not the axial skeleton. Fair enough? So these are called the appendages. Arms and legs are called appendages. So appendicular just means the part that has to do with the appendages. So it's the limbs and then their girdles. The girdles are the parts where they attach. Yeah. Kind of bones we're talking about are these ones here on the Jolly Roger. Anybody recognize what bones those are? Where they're supposed to be? I understand the skull. But the other ones, where are they supposed to be? Guesses? I'm not entirely confident, but probably, right? Because they're long and official enough looking. They're the classic bone, right? Some bones just look way more impressive than others. Okay. The pectoral girdles, anybody know where their pecs are? We haven't got muscles yet. Okay, everybody, you're like, we worked out. Okay. The pectoral girdle is attached the upper limbs to the trunk. Yeah? And then the pelvic girdle is doing the same thing, but lower limbs to the trunk. Right? Pectoral girdle, is this helpful to see this little guy? Okay. Pectoral girdle is this deal, right? We've got, let me turn this little thing around. Great. Here in the back, we've got the scapula. Here up in the front, we have the clavicles, right? You know, these ones are way thinner than these. Much easier to break the clavicles, right? They're, and you can feel them. If it helps, follow along with feeling bones. We're not going to memorize all the bones of the body, but we're going to know the big ones, okay? There's a huge range of motion with your arm, right? You can go up, you can go down, you can go back, you can roll it, right? Huge range of motion, absolutely fantastic. The scapula isn't actually officially attached to the axial skeleton. It's it's attached through other things, it's hanging onto a rib here. It's touching a clavicle, right? But it's not fused on. Super mobile, super flexible. Also, the joint here, I realize there's metal stuff, but the joint where this bone, we'll get to what this bone is in a minute, where it fits in, is a really shallow connection, right? So you can have a deep connection that goes around the whole head, or you can have a fairly shallow connection. That shallow connection means you can move a huge range of motion. It's fantastic. This is a shallow connection, though. What does that mean for the resiliency, or I guess maybe a better word is strength? Yeah, say what? three of you were like acting something out, and you all were right.
It pops out.
It pops out, right?
There you go, guys.
Like, thank you. Like feeling like we're participating here. Great. Which it's not supposed to pop out, but that's the trade-off you have to have, right? Yeah. You're not restricting movement, but then sometimes you really wanted to restrict movement. It's not restricting movement, and boom, there it goes. I really hope this plays. I got all excited and tried to put things inside the PowerPoint, which is always a dumb idea. It never works. I should always play with YouTube, but this time will be different. It will be different. Oh my goodness.
The pectoral girdle refers to the bony arch formed by the clavicle and the scapula. The primary function of the pectoral girdle is to act as an attachment point for the muscles that provide arm movement at the shoulder joint. It also provides the only connection between the arm and the axial skeleton.
Don't freeze. I guess that was it. Sorry. Okay. Question just to think about. Anybody want to help the class out? Absolutely. Okay with this? Great. Okay. Next up, we've got the pelvic girdle. Right here, you all have one. You can call it a hip girdle. Same deal. It's got two, well, okay. Using my hands properly. Pointing out for class, online, high online class. You've got these two hip bones and the sacrum. It's going to attach the lower limbs to the axial skeleton, and that's tied on tight. So you can do this with your arm. You cannot do that with your leg, right? Like, even most flexible people on the planet cannot do that, right? Like, it just doesn't fit. The connection here to the bone, well, first of all, the hip girdle itself is tied on with some really tight ligaments to the axial skeleton. It's solid. Also, the socket is a lot deeper. So instead of the shallow socket that has a huge range of motion, the socket here, it still allows some movement, but it's not popping out. At least, not unless something very dramatic happens. Which probably makes some level of sense, right? Unless you walk on your hands all the time, right? Your lower limbs are supporting the whole body weight and whatever random books you're carrying around in your backpack. Freshmen are the worst with this. Like, I understand why, but I think it's because of high school. They carry, like, every single book they own in their backpacks, and you feel so bad for them, right? Because they're like, it's like, yeah, you've seen these people, right? Like, you don't have to do that, little guys. And you've got to also, with this, you've got to support a bunch more organs. Whereas up here, you're basically just trying to support the arms. Fair enough? Okay? I'm going to go through kind of quickly with the assumption that at the end we might want to review for the exams. Yeah? Okay. Also, because, like, you should know the bones, but there's not a lot to say about them besides know the names and, like, where they are. So here we've got the hip bones, then fused together. There's this pubic arch here, and then this pubic symphysis. It's this little cartilage bit that's in the middle of it. We will get to those in a moment. Back to clavicle. So that was pelvic girdle, hip girdle. Sorry, pectoral girdle, pelvic girdle. We're back up here to the clavicles. They're your collarbones, right? People call them that because they're right at the level of your collar, typically. They're kind of this S shape going on here. Here's our picture. Ooh. Now we're back. Are people seeing this okay? Now we're back here to these bones. Remind me what they're called? Yeah, and they're not actually attached to the axial skeleton. Okay, like, I mean, they're attached, but not directly. Um, they're really pretty thin. They're big though, and they're there. You see right there on the rib cage, the back. We're just comfortable with what it looks like. You could recognize it if you saw it. Okay, great. So that's the pectoral girdle. I can fancy. That's the pectoral girdle. Now we're on to the upper limb. Everybody calls this the arm, right? Like, because that's what it's called, right? Except for when you're talking about this limb specifically. So if you're just talking in anatomy about the arm, people know you mean this. If you're studying or working on the upper limb proper, you get to be fancy. And you call from the elbow to the shoulder the arm, right here. This is called the forearm, from the elbow to the wrist. And then wrist to the end of your fingers is the hand. Okay? So, this is my personal least favorite anatomical, well, the lower limb's just as bad. If you're talking about this limb by itself, it's not all the arm. Right? Arm, forearm, hand. Notice the number of bones on different parts of this. Bones of the arm proper. Just one, right? Which is super easy. That's like the only place in the body, well, it's one of the only places in the body that it's like, yep, it's just like one bone. If you're, that little drawing you drew as a kid for Halloween is actually decently accurate for the arm itself, where it's like, yep, there's a bone there. Forearm has 2 bones here, right? And then the hand has so many bones. And you knew that as you try and put together the hands in lab, right? There's just a lot going on. And a lot of like oddly shaped bones. So far so good? People, did you ever hit your elbow as a kid or as an adult and everything goes numb and people say you hit your funny bone? Do you know why they call it their funny bone? I am not making it up. The pun is inherited. It's because it's the humerus. Get it? Yeah, okay. This is the humerus. Sometimes called the funny bone. It's the only bone of the arm proper. Alright? And it's that classic long bone kind of shape. Right? Up here is actually where it's, if people are going to break it, like, if they fall, okay, so clavicles are pretty easy to break, but like if people fall and end up breaking it, they typically break it right about here, just because of how the physics of the body work. But yeah, we're solved on this one. This, I think, is the easiest bone to know because you already know what it's called, right? Don't call it the funny bone, though. It's the humerus. And it's not actually the bone that hurts. It's there's a nerve running next to it that you hit. But that's besides the point. This now we're looking at the elbow here, and you'll see how, hi little buddy, the humerus is going to articulate with these 2 bones, right? And there's quite a bit of movement there. It's not shoulder level range of motion, right? Like you can't do it quite so much, but there's still a lot of movement there. Oh, right, wrong picture. This picture. I forgot to switch on yours. Yep. Okay, the elbow. Okay, forearm. This is the forearm here. And you can feel for your bones, right, in your forearm. People sometimes think they just have one, but you can actually feel both of them, right? They're running more or less right next to each other, right? They're running more or less parallel. And the ulna is the medial one, and the radius is the lateral one. But remind me what that means, because, like, my weird little skeleton guy. This might not be the best skeleton to use because it flips backwards. Okay. Almost medial, but which way are we talking about? Does that make sense, right? Because medial's closer to midline. But it makes a difference which way I have my arms. Are we okay with this picture right here? Where is the anatomical position? This little guy's hands are out, right? Standing anatomical position. When that's the case, this longer bone, this bigger bone, yeah, here, let me show you a picture. Right here. Radius and ulna. And you'll see how the radius itself, where's the picture? Where are my pictures? Okay. You'll see how the ulna is the one that's actually on your elbow. Alright? This might not help you, but that ulna starts with a vowel and elbow starts with a vowel helps me remember which one's which, right? And then the radius is the other one. And the radius is the one that's mostly, I mean, they're both right here at the wrist, but the radius is more right there at the wrist. You okay with that, those distinctions? Concerns or questions here? When people break their arm, they're almost always, well, not always, they're often breaking their radius. So which one's that one? This one or this one? This one? This one? This one? It should be this one, right?
I just remember radius is on the one side and ulna is on the
Yeah.
other side.
Did I say that wrong? Radius, ulna? Ulna with elbow? Yeah, okay. Sorry. I confused myself. Yeah. They're almost always breaking their radius, and they're breaking about right here. Anybody ever done that before? Fun times? Anybody in this class broken bones? No? Yeah? Nosy questions, what bones?
Tibia.
Tibia?
Breaking my spine
Huh?
and I broken
At the same time? Oh, guess like good heavens. Sorry. I've knocked out several teeth, but I've never actually broken a bone. Okay. Great. So far so good. Arm, forearm, and then hand. If you decide to be the kind of person who carries deeply, you can memorize all the bones in the hand. Most people, however, don't care that much about it, which is fine. You just need to know a couple main distinctions, okay? We've got 3 sets of bones in the hands, all right? We've got carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges. When someone has carpal tunnel, what part of them hurts? Wrist, right? Your carpal bones are these little guys right here. Yeah? They fit beautifully together, right? They're supposed to. You can't really feel the difference between them all that well. Just try to feel it. But there's a whole bunch of interlocking bones there. They come in 2 rows. Again, sorry. You can see that there's a row here and there's a row here. I guess I feel like I'm ignoring this side of the class, but I've got a camera right here. So, metacarpals are going to be these bones of your palm, right? So you're feeling all those bones. There's 5 of them, which is convenient, right? Because you've got 5 fingers. Right there. And they're numbers 1 to 5 of thumb to little finger. Great. The metacarpals are your palm. Then your phalanges are your actual fingers. And you'll see that for these 4 fingers, help me out here with counting. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright? The thumb is slightly different. It only has 2. Alright? Thumb gets to be called the pollex sometimes, just because why not? It's missing one. It doesn't have that middle flange. So far so good? You're okay with the 3 distinctions there? Alright. Okay, here are pictures. And again, there are names for every single one of these bones. Know the distinctions, okay? Alright, question. If people are wearing rings, whether it's wedding ring, clasp, or whatever, what bone is right underneath it? Say it loud. Yeah. Right? Because your metacarpals are inside your palm, right? But you're up one. Question, is it helpful to have questions like this, or is it like waste of time, keep moving?
No.
Have them? Okay. So I recognize that like you all know these things. I think it's sometimes helpful for me to like answer a question I kind of know in the moment because I'm like it solidifies it in my brain. Okay. But I don't want to waste your time. All right. Back to the pelvic girdle, which we saw a moment ago. The hip bone itself. You all saw them in lab, right? 3 distinct regions. How are we in time? 3 distinct regions. That's okay. We're gonna move on really quickly. It forms this nice socket. All right. And the whole thing gets to be called the pelvis. All right. Several fused bones get to the pelvis. Most bones of the body, you can't actually, if you're a crime scene investigator or whatever, if you found the humerus, you couldn't tell, oh, this was a woman, oh, this was a man. Like that's not enough information. Based on general size of the skeleton, people can have a good guess sometimes, right? But most bones, it's actually hard to tell. The pelvis is the exception. Pelvis is actually fairly straightforward to tell, and there's not like one thing. It's just relative sizes. All right. Here's a better picture. The female pelvis has a much wider opening from side to side. We're looking at it looking up, right? Do you see this? This is much easier to get a baby's head through, right? Not coming out through there. Yeah? That doesn't mean that females' pelvises are actually, they have to be bigger than those for the male. It's taller, right? It's expecting a somewhat heavier body. It's expecting more pressure coming down on it. And it's fairly deep and fairly narrow. And you can see, it's called the pubic arch. You can see that arch is pretty tight. Whereas for females, the arch is spread out more, and the hips themselves are going to be tilt a little bit forward and not quite so high. They're going to be out more. We're comfortable with that? There's one note, just because it's cool. Give me a second here. It took me longer to drag the skeleton in than I meant for it to. I didn't finish my one visual aid. Okay. Hi, camera. So my little next card here has a hole that is the size of a dime. I specifically cut it out to be the size of a dime. Right? Is everyone okay that that's not cheating? So it objectively is too small to fit a quarter through, right? Like a quarter is bigger than a dime. We see this difference? High camera. But the nice thing about index cards are that they're bendable, right? So if I can bend it, I can fit through without actually tearing the hole. We're okay with the idea? The same deal happens with the pelvises. Objectively, there's like, objectively it's challenging to fit an infant's skull through it. But because there's a little bit of give right there, the pubic symphysis, it can do the, not quite as dramatically as cards, but it can bend a little bit and make the opening kind of like bend around the kid's skull. Concerns, comments, questions? Of course. Alright. So then we have the lower limb here. Oops. This bugs me. It shouldn't bug me, but it's the equivalent to having a picture slightly off. But stay with me. If we're talking arm, forearm, hand, right? Arm, forearm, hand, right? You would think, if you were talking about the lower limb, you'd go something like leg, foreleg, foot. You don't. This is the thigh. This is the leg proper. Does that bug anybody else? Apparently not. Okay, you're just gonna roll with it. If you're talking about the lower limb, if you're talking about the lower limb in general, it's the leg. If you're talking about the lower limb specifically, this first section from your hip to your knee is going to be the thigh. From your knee to your ankle is going to be the leg. And then the bottom part is the foot. I feel like I'm getting weirdly personal with the skeleton. Concerns? We're good? Alright. Femur is amazing. This thing is huge. You see it? Like that is a very big bone. Your femur is probably about a quarter of how tall you are. Right? Like, this thing is solid. This is a bone that you should not break. Oh my goodness, do not break this bone. Right? Don't do that. Like, don't break any of your bones, but really don't break your femur. Apparently, people say, and I don't know, I guess you have to have somebody who's delivered a baby and broke their femur and, I don't know, had something else happen. But apparently, breaking femur is about as painful as things that can happen to you. So yeah, don't do that. Good news, it's hard to break. Because it's huge. And it's really strong. It's designed to be very, very strong. You also have this weird little bone right here. Sorry, computer people, I can't. Right there on your knee, you can feel it, it can wiggle around. It's called the patella. It's going to protect the knee joint. When we talk about joints, we'll see how it's really, really helpful. It makes it so your muscles don't have to work so hard to get the same range of, the same force behind them. So far, so good? So, bones of the thigh, we have our femur, which is the main bone, and then the patella, that little tiny bone that's protecting the knee joint. Yeah? Here are pictures. For these long bones, you see this blob outlet that fits into a socket. There's one up here on the humerus as well. That's called a head, just so you know. We're comfortable with the thigh. Now for the leg proper, which is basically the part of you that you'd call your calf mostly. This, similar to the how the forearm has two bones, the leg also has two bones. They're parallel. They're connected by this like membrane stuff between them. The tibia is the one you're actually using to support your weight, right? It's solid. It's gonna, the weight of the body is gonna come down through it, right? It's gonna come down through the femur. It's gonna go to the tibia, and it's gonna go all the way to the foot. The fibula is one of those bones that's like those people in your group assignments who's there and it's helpful, but it's not really carrying the weight, right? You had this person in groups before. Like, why is it here? Questions about this? You'll see they're connected here. If you're gonna break it, it's gonna get broken here. I don't know if I feel like you care where they get broken, but I just put little arrows in. That's typically where it gets broken. We're good? I feel like this is fast. Here it is broken. The fibula is an easier bone to break. Do we see how we're looking? Do we see that the foot's coming off right here? Looking at leg there. Okay. And then the foot is going to look similar to the hand in that it's got, so remind me what bones of the hand, bones here of the wrist, what are those called? These ones? These ones? You guys are on this. I will just be so ready for Thursday. Oh my goodness. That's true. It's true. Like, this class I think is just doing fine. You're doing great. I think I might get in trouble if like everybody gets A's, but I'll cross that bridge when we get to it because I think people are legitimately just all doing well. Yeah. Okay. Hand, foot. So the foot is gonna have similar organization, right? It's gonna have the tarsals, which is kind of the equivalent to the carpals. Come on, online people, sorry. Right here. It's slightly odd news. Alright, you got the tarsals here. Oops. Tarsals here. You only have 7 bones, whereas carpals you have 8. But that's okay. We're just gonna roll with it. That's fine. Metatarsals are the part that's, equivalent to the metacarpals, more or less. They're forming this, the ball of your foot, right? If your foot was a hand, it'd be the palm, right? And then the phalanges are going to be the bones of the toe. Again, your big toe doesn't have all 3 bones, it only has 2. Questions about this? Random side note, if people lose their thumbs, their lives are worse than they were before because, like, your thumb, it's really important for this range of motion to grip, right? It's attached differently than the rest of the fingers, and without thumbs, a lot of things are harder, right? When they try and hold a pencil, whatever it is, right? So one of the treatments is to amputate the person's big toe and attach it back. Yeah. Do you want to see a picture? You want to see a picture? Yes, it does throw off your balance a little bit, but it throws off your balance less than not having a thumb throws off your ability to, like, do normal things. But yeah, it's not like, well, no problem. I mean, and I'm guessing that they're actually, I'm guessing when people pitch this to somebody, like, they talk about, I don't know how they pitch it. Well, let's see. This kind of thing. Right? So, I mean, it's thoughts? People's faces are concerned looking.
Can you move it just as well?
So once things heal up, apparently it's fine. Like, it's a little bit thicker, right? Like, probably texting is harder, right? Just because it's whiter. But it should be about the same. You'll see, sorry, you'll see right here at the level of the foot, all of these, sorry, up here, all these phalanges right here, they're all like pointed the same direction, right? Pointed the same direction. but the big toe only has these two, right? Hold that thought and we'll go back up to here. When we look at the hand, no. When we look at the hand, the phalanges on the hand, this one only, the thumb only has two, right? I mean, as does the big toe, and three here. The difference between the thumb and the big toe for bone structure isn't that different. The big difference is how it's attached. So, bones of the foot are all pointed the same way, but if you take the toe off and attach it sideways, like, because your thumbs are on sideways, right? Like, that's a good thing, but they are. Like if you're typing on a keyboard, you're hitting with the side of your thumb, the beds of your fingers. So if you attach the toe on sideways, you're fine. Yeah. We're good? Right. I think the body is very, very interesting. I also realize I accidentally go creepy, and I'm not meaning to go creepy. But then I realized, actually, if I was writing an exam last night, it was kind of late, because I got home, and I had supper, and I played with the kids, and I was like, I should write this exam. There's one picture on there that I recognize is actually legitimately creepy. You'll know it when you see it. It's somebody that has two sets of arms. It's a diagram. Anyways. I was trying to go for thought questions because you people have really good notes, which is good. But I don't really want to test your note-taking abilities. I'd rather test your... Do you understand what's happening? Okay. With that brief side note, are we doing okay? So here we are with the foot. Again, bunches of bones. You'll see... Well... Your foot, as you may be aware, is not flat against the ground, right? It's got an arch to it. Right here. I mean, there should be, like, other things on the sides of the bone. You've got, this arch is held up because the bones interlock in a certain way. There's also some ligaments and tendons that are holding it. And there's actually 3 specific distinct arches to it. These right here, so it both curves this way and curves the other way, right? Yeah. It helps you not hurt. And you might have noticed this if you've been standing on like concrete all day and your feet are like squashing down flat. It hurts. Having the arch helps you support weight better. Questions about that? Okay, that's where we are for the bone. So in theory now, you know, like, major bone. You don't necessarily need to know which carpal is called what. But if any bone was pointed at, you'd be able to call it by an anatomical name. Right? Of course. Great. With that, we have half an hour for review questions. Online people, go ahead and email me if you have review questions. I'm going to stop recording.